According to legend, Loch was formed when the Cailleach failed to cover a sacred spring which issued from Ben Cruachan, leading to the valley below being flooded overnight. So why am I talking about Loch when I'm standing here on the shores of Loch Katrine? Well, you see, the origins of both lochs appear to be very similar, but the Loch Katrine version has a twist. Let me explain. It is said that in ancient times the valley, now occupied by the loch, was home to various dwellings where wise and virtuous people lived. These people were shepherds and foresters and lived in peace with everyone they met. Everyone, that is, but a mysterious creature which lived in a cave on the slopes of Benvenue. A creature which had, for a very, very long time, harboured a desire to harm the good people of the Vale. Like Cruachan, there was said to be a sacred spring on the slopes of Benvenue, which the locals guarded, for it was the source of their pure, clear water. In order to protect this vital supply of fresh, clean water, the villagers would guard the spring every night to try to deter evil spirits or mischievous sprites or fairies from tainting the crystal clear waters. One night, a local girl named Katherine was charged with watching over the spring, and the creature at last saw his chance. Under cover of darkness, he came towards the spring in the guise of a handsome young man, bearing a bowl of mountain berries, berries which he had hand-picked from the slopes of Benvenue itself. On seeing Katherine, this handsome young man approached her, persuading her to eat some of the fruit which he had cast a spell on. Katherine ate the berries and instantly fell into a deep sleep. As she slept, the creature quickly and silently removed the sluices from the well which contained the spring, sending the water down the hillside into the valley below. As it was night, the good people of the Vale were fast asleep and most drowned in their beds. When Katherine woke to find the valley drowned, she wept at all which had arisen because of her want of vigilance, and out of despair she threw herself into the lake, which has borne her name ever since. It is said that ever since that day, the valley has remained flooded. As recently as the 1850s, just before the loch was dammed, an event which raised the level of the water by more than 5 metres, the remains of some of the houses which dotted the length of the valley could still be seen beneath the surface. And even now, it is claimed that the creature still lives in a cave on the lower slopes of Benvenue, and every now and then, his screams of malicious joy at what he has done can be heard piercing the darkest of nights. Interestingly, there is still a small glen on the lower slopes of Benvenue, which carries the name Corrie nan Urisken, the Corrie of the Urisks, sometimes called by the locals the Cave of Goblins. Urisks were a kind of half-man, half-goat creature, similar to the more domesticated brownies, and just like the brownies, they could be won over by the kindness of humans. Unfortunately for Urisks though, their appearance made it far more likely that anyone encountering them in their lonely dark caves were more likely to fear or attack them than try to befriend them with kindness. As a result, most Urisks lived alone, in quiet, rarely visited glens and caves, often beside streams or waterfalls, gathering once a year, here in the Corrie of the Urisks, to exchange news and gossip with their kin. I mentioned that there was a twist to this tale. You see, in the Loch story, the Cailleach, the divine hag, the queen of winter, the creator of mountains and lakes, was to blame for the flood. But here at Loch Katrine, it was a mere mortal girl, distracted by a malicious creature. So what is the twist? Well, if the Cailleach was responsible for the creation of Loch, why is there no mention of her around the loch? Conversely, if this legend is correct, and a girl called Katherine was responsible for creating this lake, And why does the Cailleach appear in place names all around the loch? Like this spot here, Alt na Cailleach, the burn of the Cailleach, which drains into Loch Katrine through a steep-sided valley called Faith na Cailleach, the veins of the Cailleach. We may never know if these legends are one and the same, mixed up at some point in the past. And we may never know who or what was responsible for the creation of this lake. But if you stand here by the side of the loch, in the middle of a dark and silent night, you might just hear the shrieks of joy coming from the opposite shore, echoing in a lonely cave, lost in the corrie of the urisks. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more, then be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you enjoyed the photographs used to illustrate them, then pop over to my photo channel, John McKenna Photography, where I show you how these images were made. There's a link in the description below. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and look out for my next Tales from Scotland.